Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf. As promised, she's back. I told you she would be. You've all been asking for her, so your wish is my command. I've had to pin her down because her social life is a lot busier than mine. So she's back. We're going to be doing a video today all about concealer hacks for more mature skin. Really, it's not really for more mature skin. These hacks work for everybody, but if you struggle with your concealer creasing throughout the day, then these hacks might help you out. So if you are interested in finding out what they are, then please keep watching. Ready? Are you done huffing?
I'm sorry. I didn't realise I did huff. Yes, I'm finished huffing.
Okay then. Okay, so tip 1 is to prep the skin, moisturize, and once you've done moisturizing, moisturize some more. It's super important that your under eye area is hydrated before you add any concealer whatsoever. And this is a really important step if you are in your teens or if you are 80, 85. It's a universal step and everybody should do it. Okay, so tip 2 is leave plenty of time in between the moisturizing phase and applying the concealer. It's really, really important that you leave time for your moisturizers to sink and bed into your skin. Otherwise, the oils and the moisture will try and break down the concealer throughout the day, and you will be left with a little bit of separation, some creasing, maybe even a little bit of a cakey mess. So it's really, really important to leave that time, and I recommend around about 20 minutes. I know a lot of you won't have that time, but I recommend that you wash your face first thing in the morning, you apply your creams, and then maybe go downstairs and eat breakfast before you start applying your makeup. That way, you've got plenty of time in between before you start applying your concealer. Okay, so tip 3 is to blot any excess oils from the surface of your skin. If you've used a really heavy cream, this is really, really important. The moisture will still be in your skin, but it's really important that you get rid of any excess oils that are sitting on the surface of the skin before you start applying your concealer. Believe me, you will see a big difference later on in the day if you do this step. Okay, so tip 4, if you struggle with creasing concealer throughout the day, then I highly recommend that you try a primer underneath the eyes. Now, I'm not a big fan of primer. If you've seen my Are Primers Worth It video, I will link that up here for you. If you haven't, you will have noticed that I'm not a huge fan on primers, but the only time I ever use one is underneath the eye area because I just think it smooths everything out, it stops things from creasing, and it makes things last a lot longer. So if you don't have a problem, don't worry about it and skip this phase. But if you do struggle with creasing concealer, I highly recommend that you try one out. So the concealer that I'm going to use today is the SMASHBOX Photofinish Primer. I've just put the tiniest bit in between my fingers and I'm just going to dab that using patting motions underneath where we're going to apply the concealer. Okay, so tip 5, if you struggle with dark circles underneath your eyes like my mum does, then I recommend getting a colour corrector. And I recommend a liquid colour corrector, not a cream colour corrector, because a cream one will sink into the fine lines and not be as flattering as a liquid colour corrector. Now, if you have any bluey purpley tones, the colour corrector to go for is more of an orangey peachy shade. And the one that I'm going to use today is from MAC. It's the MAC Prep&Prime in Bright Forecast. Okay, so tip 6, don't apply foundation all the way underneath your eye area. Stop around about here and then you can blend your concealer into your foundation. It's really important that you put as little product underneath your eye as physically possible, because the more product you put underneath your eye, the more chance you've got of it caking and creasing throughout the day. So less is much more underneath the eye area. Okay, so tip 7, I always recommend that if you need it, I would recommend going for a full coverage concealer rather than going for a medium coverage concealer and having to apply more product. If you go for a full coverage concealer, then you can apply a lot less product underneath the eye and it will look far more flattering as the day goes on. A lot of full coverage concealers though are quite drying on the under eye. So this is tip 7. apply a little bit of oil to your concealer. So I have one of my favorite concealers here, which is the Revolution Conceal and Define. if I was just to put a tiny bit of this on the back of my hand, and then I've got some SMASHBOX primer oil, and I'll just apply a tiny bit of that also to the back of my hand. So we've got the oil and we've got the concealer. So I'm just going to mix those two together, and then it's safe to apply those underneath the eye area. Okay, so tip 8 is always apply the concealer to the back of your hand first before you apply it underneath the eye. There are a lot of concealers that have sponge applicators so that you can just dab it on underneath the eye, but this way sometimes you can get far too much product underneath the eye and you just don't need it. And if you've got more product, again, it can go cakey and creasy throughout the day, so less is much more. So apply it to the back of your hand. You can apply it with a brush or with a beauty blender, whichever one you choose to do. There really is no difference, but my choice is always my brush, and this is the 142 Concealer Buffer Brush from ZOEVA. And I bought my mum one of these the other day because she didn't have one. And it's so good.
It is.
So always dip your brush in the actual concealer and then tap off all the excess from the brush before you go into the eye. You can always go in with more product, but it's very difficult to take it away. Okay, so tip 9, this is what I've been really looking forward to, is make a funny face. It's really important that you stretch out the skin underneath your eyes while you're applying the product and also while you're applying powder. Just gets everything really, really taut without having to drag your skin down. So you're doing it naturally rather than pulling on the skin. Very important step. So we're going to get my mum to demonstrate. We're going to really lower the mouth, lift up the eyebrows, and then we will go in again with the brush to make sure that it's all smooth. Beautiful. How long can you hold it? Okay, so the final tip for today, and tip 10, is choose a setting method that is right for your skin type. Now, a lot of more mature ladies don't think that it's possible for them to set their under eye concealer because it makes them look like they have more wrinkles and it might make their skin look a little bit crepey as well. There are several methods that you can try out at home and see which one works best for you. So we're going to go through all 3 of them. So the only product I am going to use today is the RCMA No Colour Powder. This is an excellent product. It's £13 in the UK and it's $12 in the US, and you get 3 ounces worth of product, which is over 10 times the amount that you would get in a normal product from, say, L'Oreal, Maybelline, or wherever. So we're going to use this one and this one alone today. It's an excellent powder and both me and my mum use this product. So the first method I'm going to show you today is the method that I use on a daily basis. This might not be appropriate for you if you have more mature skin, but try it out and see what you think. So I take my 227 Luxe Crease Brush from ZOEVA. You don't have to use this particular brush, you can use any brush that you have to hand. And I dip this into my little powder here, cover it in powder, and then knock off every single last bit of excess that's on the brush. And then with what's left over, you make your funny face and you dust underneath the eye while you make that funny face, setting everything in place. And that is it. That's all I do, and that works for me. If that doesn't work for you, there's a second method. So the second method involves a blending sponge, and because it's a sponge for underneath the eye area, I've gone for one of the really dinky sponges that are really, really cute. You can use a full-size beauty blender, but this is my personal preference. So I have dunked this in quite a lot of water, and if I squeeze it, I'm not sure whether you'll see this, but if I squeeze it, some water still drips out of it. It's really important that you have a really damp sponge, because when you set any concealer in place, the actual setting powder's main ingredient is talc, and that's what you use on your body after you get out of a bath, and it takes all the excess moisture away, and you don't want it to take any moisture out of your under eye area. So that's why we use the dampness in the sponge. So if it's going to take out any moisture, it will take out the moisture that you're actually applying with the powder and not any moisture that's in your skin. Okay, so I'm taking my really damp sponge, I'm dipping it into the setting powder. There's not a lot of setting powder in here. Tap off the excess again. There's a little bit of product on there. I'm gonna get my mum to make a really funny face, and I'm just gonna tap that on the under eye area. And can you feel the water coming through there as well, Mum? It's really quite damp. Only put it where you actually need it. And then as soon as you've done, take your little brush and just dust any excess product away. That is set in place and it will not move. Okay, so the third method we're going to use is if the first method didn't work for you. So we're still going to apply the powder using a brush underneath the eye area. We're just going to pat that on. I have used this method on my mum before and it's worked really, really nicely. But I know a lot of mature ladies do struggle with this because it makes the eye area look creasy and a lot more wrinkled than you actually are. So then once you've dusted that product underneath the eye, if you feel like it's made your lines or wrinkles a lot more prominent and it's maybe drying your under eye area out a little bit, then take a little bit of oil. Now this can be any facial oil or any primer oil. I'm using the SMASHBOX primer oil that I used earlier on. But what you need to do is apply a little bit to the back of your hand like I did earlier on. Tap your little finger, what's that finger called?
Ring finger.
Your ring finger. Tap your ring finger into it and get a little bit of product on the end of your finger, and then tap all the excess product off that. There's hardly any left on my finger whatsoever, and then I'm just going to pat that really lightly underneath the eye to add a little bit of hydration where we've lost hydration because of the powder. Just revitalizes underneath the eye and gives it a lot more softer look. So if none of those setting techniques actually work for your skin, and they might not if you've tried them all out and you just think these don't work for me, there are certain concealers that you can buy that don't need setting in place. There are also setting sprays which you can use instead of using a powder, so go and explore that avenue. And if you want me to do a setting spray video, please do comment below and I'm quite happy to do that for you as well. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please do give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There is a watermark in this corner. If you click on it, it will take you through to my homepage where you can subscribe. So please subscribe, means the world to me. Also, don't forget, I am also on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook if you'd like to follow me on there as well. My Instagram is a lot more personal. We'll show you insights into my personal life as well as the whole makeup world. So I hope to see you all again soon. Bye!
Bye!